Glad to be home. Long week away from home. Thought we would play better at San Diego State, which we didn't, but that had to do with a lot to do with how well they played. Tough environment for us. New environment for a lot of our guys. So we learned a lot. Had 2 days of practice in Salt Lake City at the Jazz facility. Figured some things out. Got some guys, you know, working and figuring some things out. But had 2 days of practice, and we've got very fortunate and won at Utah State. Emotional week for them with coach saying he's going to resign at the end of the year, so we didn't know what to expect. Guys responded, went through some adversity, played well to win in a tough environment. Probably this, I think our road trip with San Diego State, Utah State's got to be the toughest as far as environments. So came out of that with a 1-1 split. Very happy about that. And I thought we grew up as a team. I thought we grew up with some adversity and good amount of fight. It was really good to see Hugh play the way Hugh's capable of playing as far as letting the game come to him. I think his first basket was 14 minutes into the first half. He ended up with 22 points. I thought with JJ and Obach combined for 12 and 8, and Obach's 3 big free throws. I think those two guys are growing up before our eyes, really improved. And then the other guys have continued to improve, and our teams continue to improve. So looking forward to taking that and getting home and playing in front of our fans. And big game on Wednesday against Air Force, and then a big game on Sunday against Boise.
I know this is kind of a weird question for this team that's so inexperienced, but after that split, and you guys are sitting at 3-1 now, do you have any problems with some of the new guys seeing where Air Force is in the standings and almost having a letdown game?
Don't take this the wrong way. I don't know if everybody knows how many guys we got, how many teams we have in our conference. I mean, I don't know if they're capable of doing that. We don't talk about it, but I don't think there'll be a letdown in the sense that I don't think they look at the standings that way. You might want to ask. I'll probably ask them today if they even know where they stand in the standings, but I don't think the new guys understand that. I think the old guys do because we've talked about it a lot, but the only thing I'm telling them is they're 2 possessions away from beating San Diego State at San Diego State, and they came back on Colorado State and played them tough. They always play everybody tough, so it's a different way to play. It's a different way to prepare because you got to guard them every possession. So that's going to be an interesting 2 days for us, just seeing how our guys adjust to this game plan because it's totally different than what you do during the year. You basically switch everything around.
You haven't had anybody close to run their offense, or have you?
No.
Is this Boise team a little more limited without guys like Dremick?
The Boise team's definitely limited without Dremick. I mean, he's probably the best offensive player in the league. So I think that's evident to how they started, and I don't think their schedule's been really nice to them. But somebody's got to play that schedule. So, and now we've had 2 road games back to back, and then we have 2 games with Air Force and Boise. It'll be tough, and then we got to go on the road with UNLV and Wyoming. So, I don't think it gets any easier. But they're definitely limited. They're a good team, well coached. They're limited because their best offensive players out, and we know a little bit about that.
What's the status, or what's the stumbling block? What's holding Jordan back? I mean, his last couple.
Jordan Goodman?
Yeah.
I think just being hurt and being out of shape.
Just simple as that.
Well, I think you guys have blown this thing up that he's supposed to be this great, great player, and nobody's ever seen it. Have you seen it in person?
No.
I haven't either. So, there's a lot of paper reps that are out there on people that have never come true, and I think that's a little unfair to him and his expectations along with the injury. I just think it's really, really hard. It's hard to be really good. And, to be honest with you, I just think he's out of shape, and his injuries have set him back. For us to come in here and, say that he's going to do certain things, I think it's not fair to him, but he's a long way away from doing that.
You talked about Air Force, and you talked about how you guys have to guard on every possession. What else do they do that's good that
Well, they just have a lot of guys that play. I mean, they play a lot of guys. They're their offense is hard to guard. You gotta go into it with a game plan that this is how we're going to play it. These are adjustments we're going to make. They've been doing it for so long and had success with it. Not the success that the teams that had passed when Brisdelic had their team and they won the league and stuff like that, and Coach Mooney. But they do a good job. He's a good coach. They got a good system. It's just their team last year was more of a veteran team, and they were pretty good. And then, their system is one of those ones that they're going to get really good when if they can get 6 or 7 or 8 guys that are 3 or 4 year players. But it's different to prepare for, and that's why I think they're hard to play against.
Do you think it keeps you guys more, like during the conference part of the schedule, you got those 2 games, just bang, 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 you grinding out the conference. Since some of the guys are younger, is it better for focus because they got something coming right away?
Well, I think it's in a sense it's good because it's games. I don't think it's good in the sense that some of your guys like Hugh and some of these guys, our new guys need work. But how much work can you do with these games coming so fast and travel and rest? And so, we'll try to get those guys that don't play as much and the new guys some reps and get them some work in. But it's just you're in a fine line of how much work you do with the whole team. So, we'll do a lot of individual work today and do some things talking about the game plan with them and show them some tape. But, you can't do a lot in 2 days physically and expect them to have energy, especially young guys.
Does Air Force have an advantage when it comes to, from a standpoint that a lot of teams have to go out of their way to prepare in a way that they normally wouldn't against most other opponents?
I just think that's just the way they play. I think we're just very fortunate we've had success against them. And, that's been one thing that we've been very fortunate to figure out, and hopefully it'll continue that way. But they're definitely hard. It is an advantage for them the way they play. There's probably, I would say, less than a handful, maybe 8 teams that play that way, play the Princeton offense. And, I think Richmond does an abbreviated one that Coach Mooney did when he was at Air Force, and I know Denver still does it. Princeton still does. So, there's a handful of teams that do it, so you don't see it a lot.
Do you prepare more for the system, or do you try and focus on guys like Maxion? Is that
Yeah, we don't really we won't focus on personnel. We'll basically just focus on principles. If they do this, or the biggest thing is you just can't let them they can't back cut you and do some things and get easy shots. If you can make them take contested shots, then you got a good chance. But when they start back cutting and you're out of position and doing that, they can make you look foolish. So hopefully our younger guys will understand that.
Coach, going into the Air Force game, do you tell Dede anything big kind of going off that last game, or do you just kind of let him do his own thing?
Who's that?
Dede.
I think he's just got to play. I don't think the 2 games that so-called disappeared, I don't think we've done anything different. I think, it's just guys got to play and guys got to perform, and I think he really showed a lot of, he stepped up and made some big plays for us and played like he's capable of doing. I think what guys got to figure out playing college basketball, there's a reason why you're open from 3-point range, and there's a reason why you're not open. And when you start playing to your strengths, you're going to have success. When you start playing to your weaknesses, you're not going to be successful. So, we'll continue to get him the ball where he needs to get it. He's got to make the plays that he's capable of making, which he's capable of making a lot of plays.
You commented on the bigs kind of coming along and growing up a little bit. There's still, especially with JJ, offensive foul kind of issue going. I think he got 3 of his fouls on the offense. And off the ball, is it a mental thing right now? Is it not understanding what he's doing wrong, or is he just what's the reason he's having so many offensive fouls even away from the ball?
Were they 3 offensive fouls?
He had 3 and No had 1.
I thought they were over the back.
They were all off the ball under the rim.
Oh, well, those are screening.
Right.
Yeah, that's.
I'm sorry.
You're talking about screening fouls. I don't mind screening fouls. I thought you meant charging, or he has some of those charging ones too. His whole thing is he's trying to play hard. he, dislodges guys. He doesn't understand that part of it. He doesn't understand to use pressure instead of making guys like tumble into the stands. The screening part of it, a lot of that is our guards' fault. A lot of that is our guys aren't waiting for them to set their screens. A lot of our guards get in a hurry instead of being patient and waiting for those guys to get there and realize that they're going to set a good screen for them. And it happens in ball screen a lot. Our guys get in too big a hurry and they don't let our guys get set. So, that's a kind of a culmination of a little bit of each, playing with one another and being patient and waiting. And I think he got the one underneath the basket because you didn't wait. But, when you've hit 3 threes in a row, you want to hurry up and get to that fourth one. So, you just got to be patient and slow down. But I think that's a lot of that is because they haven't learned how to move their feet and get in position to screen. And a lot of it is that impatience on our guards to get to the next cut.
Coach, I think you talked a little bit about it at the airport, but shot selection for Hugh Greenwood, how much coaching goes into that, or is that just him kind of figuring it out? Or?
Well, I don't think a lot of coaching go into it when you got a green light. I think coaching goes into it that you keep talking about. But if you go back and you watch from our first 5 games, the shots that he's taken to the last 3 or 4 games, they're much more on balance, much better footwork, and not hurried, and much more. Let me see how I can put this. He's more capable of making the shots he's taken now than the ones before.
After the San Diego State game, you made the comment about concern over some poor body language and some guys sulking kind of deal. Has that
Made that after the Utah State game.
Oh, Utah, yeah. I mean, is it still a concern for you? You still?
It's always a concern to me. We had the issue last year, and our captains addressed it. And it's at the end of the day, it's their team. But I think Billy Donovan said it best, and I talked to him when I was at Utah State. I called him up and just said, "Hey, you just sent a powerful message for a lot of coaches." And he called me back and he said, "That's the way I feel." He won 2 national championships, and for a guy to come out and say, "Hey, we've built a culture here. We do things the right way. If you don't buy into it and you don't put both feet in, it's not worth winning basketball games. It's about doing the right thing all the time." And I called him up and I said, "Billy, that's a powerful message for coaches, because a lot of coaches will do whatever it takes to win a game or whatever it takes to get ahead instead of just what you've built and what you're about and what your program about. And I'm not going to sacrifice my program or our culture that we've built here and what Steve started and what I was a part of and now that I'm part of, academically, socially, in the community, as a player, as a person, not going to sacrifice." So if they're not going to do it, they're not going to play. They won't be a part of the program. The guys that have done it have been real successful. Guys that weren't supposed to have really good careers had good careers and end up graduating. Guys that thought they were really good and they were going to use the program and use what they needed ended up not being with the program. So, I'm not going to sacrifice for what we represent and what we try to do for this university and state because it's not worth it. I'm not going to sell my soul for 1 or 2 wins, and if they're not going to buy into it, then they won't be at the program.
Do you think that could be a problem with this team?
We'll find out.
You think each year it gets tougher and tougher to manage it because of
No, I think what happens is when you have great success, you guys were standing here 8 years ago and you're 4-12, and you're interviewing a team that's 4-12 in last place, and then you win 7 championships in 6 years. There's a different perspective when you go into each year. And when you lose Tony Snell to, he declared for the draft, you have a coaching change, you keep all the kids that could have left, and you also keep the culture going and go 27-7, win another championship. Maybe could have done better, wanted to do better, expected to do better. That's what our program's about. But then when you have to fill in those gaps and you're not recruiting people, we didn't know Alex Kirk was going to leave. We filled in the gaps. Sometimes it's not what you expect. And sometimes you have issues, but that's part of basketball. That's part of a program, and that's part of, all we can do is try to make everybody on the same page and try to make everybody a team and try to do the right thing all the time. And there's going to be bumps in the road, but that's part of it. I mean, we had bumps in the road when we were 27-7. You can go back to games that we won at the end or we got lucky to win. We could have went the other way, guys. We could have went 20 and whatever. We could have went 20 and 14 very easily instead of 27-7. But to that group's credit, they stuck together and battled through it. But we had issues on our team last year. We just didn't talk about it. But I'm not going to put up with it. And that message has been sent. And if I got to do it, I've done it internally. I've done it with the team. And if I got to do it publicly, then I just basically said how I feel, and that gets me in trouble. I'm honest about how I feel. I'm not going to have guys on my bench that have bad body language and not going to cheer a teammate when there's 10 other guys that are and 2 not. Not going to happen.
You play 11 guys in the first half of each of the last several games. Is that going to get cut down pretty soon?
We'll find out Wednesday. We got 2 days of practice.
What about your starting lineup now? You got 4.
That'll be the same.
It will be.
Yeah, that'll be the same. Starting lineup will be the same for the next game.
There's so much obviously focus on the hardwood, but a week like last week, being away, the grind it is.
Mm-hmm.
What do you find out about just the guys overall too, and the young guys, just the attitude and kind of understanding everything else outside of practice?
Well, I think you find out what guys are willing to do to be good. I think you find out who's willing to do what they can to play and who's not. And, I think we found that out the 2 days that we practiced, and it was evident on the way they played. And, I think it's good to keep guys out and keep them together just so they can learn and keep away from distractions. And then, to be honest with you, the reason why I like staying out, you find out what they're really about. And that helps.
Coach, you mentioned a few weeks ago talking to Coach K or reaching out to Coach K.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how common is that for coaches? Or is that?
I do it a lot. I don't know how other coaches do it. I do it because I don't think you can sit back and think that you know everything, because I don't. All I'm trying to do is be as good as coach as I can be for as long as I can do it. And I think when you start thinking that you know a lot of things and you don't reach out and try to learn or try to get better and try to improve yourself as a person and try to improve yourself as a coach, I'm not that egotistical to think that I know it all or I can't reach out to people. I just called Billy because I've known Billy for a long time. It goes back to Mike Miller when Mike was coming out of high school, and I knew Mike, and everybody knows my relationship with Ryan, but I've known Billy for a long time, playing against each other. But just for him to come out and do that and make that statement, I thought it was pretty powerful for what he stands for in his program. And I think we have the same beliefs, and I think that's what we've built our program on. And that's why we've been so successful. We've been so successful with school. I think we've been so successful off the floor, not having any problems as of late. We've had problems in the past, but we handled those. And, I think you build a culture. And I think that's the biggest impact we can make is trying to make them men and how they're going to react in society when they're done. And that starts with the culture that you have in your program. And I think we got a great culture. I think we got a championship culture. I think we got a culture of excellence, and I'm not going to sacrifice for 1 or 2 guys that aren't going to buy into that and bring down 6 or 7 guys. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.